All right, two things I want to talk about in the gaming news world this week. The first, of course, you know I'm going to talk about it, The Elder Scrolls Oblivion. It's now officially real, seemingly, according to these leaks. So we've talked about this so much in the past. It's essentially Microsoft and Bethesda's worst kept secret, but I've talked about it at length already, but now that it's actually seemingly a thing, there is some stuff to unpack. So this leak comes from essentially a mistake on the developer's website. So the people developing this, as the rumor suggested, is Virtuos, kind of like a big co-development studio. They've had their hands on a lot of porting and a lot of other things. So on their website, somebody found that there was actually some art there. It was very quickly taken down, but I think I can show them on screen here without getting sued. I don't know, but you're going to see these screenshots a lot throughout me talking about this, so buckle up. Along with these images, which we will talk about in a second, the details are that it is officially going to be titled The Elder Scrolls Oblivion Remastered, and it's actually, according to VGC, being developed in collaboration with Bethesda, Bethesda Dallas, and Bethesda Rockville, along with Virtuos working on the game. And it's not going to be just Xbox, it's releasing for PC, Xbox, and PS5. And apparently it's going to have a deluxe edition that's going to come with like DLC type bonuses like extra weapons and horse armor. Isn't that cute? And along with that, this is less confirmed, but like as of right now, some people are suggesting, and some things have been found, that the game is actually going to be releasing April 21st. We knew it was going to be kind of like the end of April. They've been talking about it. The rumors have been circulating, and it was going to be a shadow drop type of thing. So it might be April 21st, or it might not be. I think that's good. I'm in the mood to play something like this. There's other big games coming that I want to dive into, like Expedition 33 and stuff like that, but this might hit at the right time, especially while people are fiending for some Elder Scrolls something. Now, I think this is a really interesting remaster, and I've been talking about it for quite some time because I have a lot of love for Oblivion. I have a lot of nostalgia for Oblivion, which definitely clouds some of my judgment, but it's a hell of a game. It wasn't my first Elder Scrolls. My first was Morrowind. Played a shit ton of that. And then Oblivion, the hype leading up to it was like nothing else, man. The visual design, the graphics, just the fact that it felt like it was going to be huge was just so exciting, so enticing. I remember using my shit little computer to slowly load snippets of trailers and screenshots that they were kind of drip feeding us. And yes, the game itself, I don't think it's aged the worst. I actually jumped in and replayed for a couple of hours last year. And visually, some of it holds up fairly well. Gameplay-wise, it's just a little soft. It's a little squishy, but the writing, the characters, the quests, the vibe, and the atmosphere is still there. So what I'm liking from these images here is that it just looks a lot more detailed now, right? You got to look at some famous places. You have the Imperial City, you have the docks, you have the gate at like the start of the game, the iconic moment when you walk onto those gates. It's like seeing God for the first time, I swear. But you have a lot more detail. You're getting, you know, lush foliage, surfaces just with like way more textures overall. And the game definitely can use stuff like that. The original game has a lot of flat, bland roads and stuff like that. A lot more to say on that, but before we keep going, this video is sponsored by Vessi. The comfortable, dependable footwear that we've been recommending for years now really is a game changer because of the waterproof feature. Yes, Vessi shoes have all different sizes, colors, shapes for every person, every scenario, but that killer feature, that killer app, is the waterproof functionality. And right now, with it being like a very rainy spring in New York here, there's no better time to recommend them. Keeps your feet cool in the summer, warm in the winter, but either way, just going out with that freedom. The backyard, the woods, the city street, anywhere. The fact that you're 100% waterproof just feels liberating. You can step in anything. Weather changes, you keep going, no problem. It's kind of like a little flex, honestly. When I wear them, sometimes I'm just like, watch this, and just walk through a puddle with nothing on it, no big deal. They've always got cool styles, but some of their classics are the Weekend. If you want something a little bit more casual, good for any real occasion. Or if you're like me and you like a high top, check out the Stormburst high top. I got a fresh pair. They're always dropping really cool styles and colorways, so you should get on it. But the Stormburst high top, like the thicker sole, the stretchy kind of sock hole to put your foot in, they're just really comfortable top to bottom. And honestly, I recommend all Vessi because they all have that great waterproof functionality. But it doesn't feel like a waterproof shoe, but you should still just check it out for yourself. Take on every day with waterproof Vessi shoes, whether it's the weekend or the Stormburst high tops. All you got to do to check them out is click the link in the description down below or head to vessi.com/onjake to get 15% off your first order at checkout. Again, that's vessi.com/onjake for 15% off. Check it out, and big thanks to Vessi for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to it. The big concern, I am going to be the annoying guy complaining about the color palette. Remakes, remasters often tend to change up the look and feel of the game, the color tone, the atmospheric effects. And, this is just a leak, and I don't want to judge it completely until the game's out, but it looks not as colorful. It looks a little desaturated. And plenty of people have replied to me on social media and said, yeah, you could just fix it with mods. Everybody's going to fix it with mods. Yeah, but for the people that don't play with mods, and I just was hoping that the core experience would have understood the color palette of Elder Scrolls a little bit more. Again, it's only screenshots. They're not the highest resolution screenshots. It could just be maybe now there are seasons or the time of day in the screenshot was hitting weird. I don't know, but there was something about that original game getting lost in these lush green environments, dense forests that really felt like forests for the first time in a game at that point. Incredibly bright, crisp blue skies, bloom lighting out the ass. Just, it had a very dreamlike fantasy quality, something that I haven't seen a lot of other games really replicate. Some people might say that that's an outdated thing, but I don't know. I think it's what still makes Oblivion unique to this day, in my mind, On the other side, we have the Oblivion gates. They look incredible, absolutely incredible in these images. That is where you could see the new horsepower and a new set of hands working on this game is really shining through. I'm just curious to see how the other side of those gates really look once you're spending time in all those Daedric castles and stuff like that, all those strongholds. But that and the key art here, which seemingly leaked, looks cool as hell. And I'm just excited for an Oblivion thing. But I also want to acknowledge, and I think not enough people are acknowledging, the fact that Skyblivion is a thing, a fan project that people have worked very hard on for many years. If you don't know what it is, I've been talking about it a lot on the Game Ranks Friday news show for years. This is essentially a fan project, a community project of talented developers and enthusiasts and people getting together to slowly build out Oblivion in the Skyrim engine. So think an Oblivion remake with a little bit more of a modern feel. That's probably what this official one is going to feel somewhat like, but still, with the actual real fans working and spending years and years on this, it's still something I absolutely want to see. And I really, really hope that this project doesn't get shut down or anything like that, because I think there's room in this world for both. I would love a consumer product, all right? Cool, a remake of Oblivion or a remaster of Oblivion, whatever. But I think there's a world where I would also still really want to play Skyblivion and just see their take on it. I think it's good to have different takes on things. It's why I like movies, comic books, shit, all that's, I can see different people's approaches, decisions, artistic instincts and stuff like that on different properties. So I just, in all this, especially if you're a gaming enthusiast and you're online, maybe you're a modder, don't forget about Skyblivion, please. And Bethesda, please don't shut it down, because that would not be a good look. And they've been working on it for a long time. End of the day, though, I am looking forward to people experiencing Oblivion for the first time one way or another. I'm curious to see how much Virtuos really changes. We've had leaks in the past of some gameplay tweaks and change-ups and stuff like that, some fixes, but I'm just curious to see how far some of that stuff is really going to go and whether or not it's going to work for people who have less tolerance of kind of what is now kind of an older school feeling game. But I am very excited for some official news, hopefully soon. And in other news, it seems like the Nintendo Switch 2 potentially could end up becoming more expensive. Now, this isn't necessarily my zone of expertise, and the tariffs and the world economy stuff is constantly shifting and changing every day. It's enough to make somebody's head spin, right? Especially someone like me who is horrific at math. But I did want to point out this report. This is from VGC with Nintendo warned to expect a 145% tariff on Nintendo Switch 2. Now, what this essentially is is word has gotten to like Nikkei and Japanese partners and stuff like that, that Nintendo has been notified by its hardware like suppliers and component providers. Essentially, they got a official memo, a heads up saying, hey guys, with everything going on, we're going to take a big hit with this potential like 145% tariff or whatever the hell it is. It's constantly all changing, right? So Nintendo officially hasn't said anything about that. Nintendo isn't going out and saying, hey guys, you know, there's this, it's going to be more expensive. But people are looking at the tea leaves and essentially this component manufacturer, supplier people telling Nintendo that their shit's getting more expensive. There is speculation that that is going to be passed over to the consumer. VGC reports, while iPhones and some computers have been made exempt from the sweeping tariffs, video game consoles have not, leading many to question if Nintendo will increase its previously announced US price plan, which would see the console retail for $450 US. And according to the report, a majority of Nintendo Switch 2 consoles are being made in China, with only a relatively small proportion being made in Vietnam. Now, interestingly enough, Doug Bowser, head of Nintendo America, did say that they had spent time, they had like looked at this ahead of time and essentially spent time getting Switch 2 units done and shipped to the United States before this shit hit the fan, which is obviously a good idea. And you've seen a lot of other companies do it. I think there were reports that Apple was doing that, just like shipping a bunch of iPhones to the US just to be ready to go and not get hit by anything that is potentially going to drop. So with this, the Nintendo Switch 2 potentially could end up costing more. Right out of the gate, I don't know. Maybe Nintendo decides to eat that cost for a little while in the hopes that the storm will be weathered and this all will be resolved and an agreement will come quickly. You don't know. Really, there's no way of predicting this stuff, at least to me, or even maybe you watching, like the layman. I have no idea. But I think if the price does increase, I think it just is. It's not good for anything. I mean, it's the same with everything. Prices going up, right? But that's a whole separate conversation. If we're talking strictly video games, I think it's interesting from a perspective where it's like the Nintendo Switch 2. I think the console price, like, yeah, you can argue it could be a little high, but it's in line with what I expected, right? But then coupled with the fact that video games themselves are getting more expensive with things like Mario Kart World costing $80, which we've talked about and debated already, but it's the reality, right? So if those games are costing $80, you have the Nintendo Switch Online subscription, and you have a console getting more expensive, it's just going to make it a tough time for video games. It's going to make an already expensive hobby more expensive. And I just find that incredibly worrying. As someone who, like, yeah, of course, like I talk about video games for a living, but also as somebody who just buys and plays video games all the time, you know? So we'll have to see where it goes. If you want to read up on it more, everything I talk about, all the sources and stuff will be linked down in the description below. But yeah, let's see what happens. That's all I got for you this week, but I always try and bring a little bonus thing. And my bonus thing this week is Devil May Cry, the animated series. I think I talked about this a little bit somewhere, but I don't know. I watched the entire series now, and I sat on it for a while, and I'm pretty, I don't know. I don't. It's tough to talk about, right? Because for me, Devil May Cry, I love them. I've played since the original. I was obsessed with it. Devil May Cry game to game is always a little different. Every single one kind of has its own little bit of vibe. I'm into new interpretations, and I actually like some of the weird, cool music choices, like the 2000s music choices in this show. I specifically really like the Limp Bizkit intro, the Papa Roach Cut My Life into Pieces. Like, I like stuff like that, right? The American Idiot needle drop did not land, though. That felt off. As a Green Day fan, even, I just was like, what? So ultimately, that stuff aside, I still just kind of felt like I was watching Invincible, but Devil May Cry. There was something about it that just felt a little off. And again, there are different types of Dantes. There are different moods that ebb and flow through the various Devil May Cry games. Is it spooky? Is it lighthearted? Is it goth? Is it 2000s cringe? Right? It fluctuates. But with the show, I think it didn't make Dante interesting enough. It didn't make him cool enough. And I feel like the way the action went down, while some of the action was good, I feel like the action didn't understand how Dante fights. Yes, a weapons master who can pick up anything and become like a maniac at it. But I don't know, there just wasn't a lot of good swordplay, gunplay comboing that, would, if somebody watched this, would go, oh wow, that's cool. I should play the video game. It didn't like work in opposite ways. I still would watch a season 2, right? Like I like how they set up things for next season. And spoiler alert, Virgil's in it. Obviously, they showed him in the trailer, but like the Virgil drop at the end, I thought it was like pretty cool, pretty well done. I don't know. Tonally, I guess maybe it was like the fact that it was set in New York and it was like almost all during the day, I think just made it feel not quite right. Something about it was a little bit off. Like they were like something was missing in the puzzle piece here. Again, I would watch season 2. I also really liked Kevin Conroy doing like Christianity lore and being like, this is God's plan. I don't know. He really hammed that stuff up. Rest in peace. It was good to hear him once again. The demon world and like a lot of the enemies Dante fought, like they just didn't really land. I liked all the characters, like the squad, like Ladies Squad. I think they all looked like really cool, like 90s anime reject, like super cop people. But I don't know. It just was like a weird thing. At the end of the day, it made me want to go back and watch the other Devil May Cry anime, because I don't think I ever finished it. So maybe I'll go do that. People are pretty divided on this one, and it's been interesting to see the conversation. I've seen some hardcore Devil May Cry fans saying, like, they ruined it. And then I've seen other people say, like, lighten up, get it over it. It was cool. Yeah, I lean a little bit more towards, like, I don't know about this one. But again, I'll watch season 2. Maybe they could fix some things up and really lock it in. But for now, that's how I feel. I was going to make a whole separate video on it, but I don't know if I actually even have enough to say, which I think is kind of like an indictment on the show. Worth a watch only if you're a fan and you're mildly curious like me. If you don't know Devil May Cry and you watch this, I don't know necessarily if this is going to make you like want to play the games. But anyway, I digress. I've talked enough. I do want to know what you guys think about everything going on this week. The Elder Scrolls Oblivion remake. Let me know how you're feeling on that. The temperature after seeing these leaked screenshots and images and comparisons, right? But also, let me know if you're into Skyblivion. Let me know if you hate Elder Scrolls. Let's talk about this. Also, with the Nintendo Switch 2, what do you think? Were you even going to buy one in the first place? Do you think you're going to try and buy one maybe before the price goes up? Or are you avoiding it altogether? Or do you think all this tariff stuff is going to be wrapped up tomorrow? Let's talk. Anything like that down there in the comments. I'll be down there as much as possible. I love talking to you guys. But if you want to yell at me directly, you can always find me on Instagram, Twitter, all those places at Jake Baldino. And yeah, that's it for me. So I got to get back to work, reviewing a couple games behind the scenes. But I'll see you in the next one. I'm Jake Baldino. Subscribe because video games. Pizza's on me.